Hey, White Sox fans, it's Crystal O'Keefe and Willow barking in the background. This is episode 36 now of Visiting Dugout, brought to you by Southside Sox, a part of Fans First Sports Network. So we are beginning to wind down with only a few shows left of this podcast for the season, since, the White Sox clearly will not be playing any October baseball. So our episodes will be just a little bit different from here on out. We don't have as much to discuss. But today I have Brandon Day of Bless You Boys on for today's episode to talk about the Tigers, one of our division rivals. So
Your best buddies. Yeah.
I know. So Tigers, they've been sitting comfortably in third place, 9 games back from first. Again, season ending right around the corner, so it's kind of assumed Tigers are not going to make it to the postseason either.
Yeah, afraid not.
Yeah, so what has kept the Tigers out of contention this year?
I mean, they didn't have quite enough to begin with. We always knew, everything was going to have to go really well for them to sneak in. I was a little optimistic and thought maybe they'd put up a 500 record this year and sneak into second place. It was kind of a quiet offseason. We had Scott Harris get hired and Al Avila fired, which did my heart, just no end of good because I'd been begging for Al Avila to be fired since about 2016, 2017. And so we were optimistic at that point, but Scott Harris hasn't really done a whole lot. The draft went well, but he didn't really pick up that much help last offseason. So it was hard to know. But if you look at like some of the things that the Tigers didn't have, they didn't end up having Austin Meadows because of the anxiety issues. Which was really unfortunate. That was a bat that we expected to have in there. And then, I figured the young pitching would come on, and to some degree that's happened. But we've also just had the wrong injuries to the wrong players. Like Kevin Riley Green missed 6 weeks, and Kerry Carpenter missed 4 at about the same time. And Eduardo Rodriguez was out at about the same time. So the Tigers were kind of in it. And then all those 3 got injured in like a week and a half span, and they lost 9 in a row. They went in a huge funk in late May and June. And since then, they've kind of played more like I expected. Kerry Carpenter's turned into the piece that we kind of thought he was last year after getting off to a good start. And, they've had some things go right with the bats. And they continue to find pitching, even though, like, the guys that we're waiting on, like Skubal hasn't, is just kind of working his way back from elbow surgery last year. Matt Manning's been, like, decent, but hasn't really taken the next step. So they've just been kind of getting by with bulk pitching and a pretty good bullpen. But this time of year, it's all just kind of fading. A lot of guys have been injured or struggling now. People are obviously worn down, and we're taking our medicine a little bit now. But overall, I'd say the season was a success because the guys that needed to get better did. And for the first time probably since 2015, I actually see like, okay, there's a legit future here. If they can do a few things this offseason, we should be a bit of a problem for the Twins next year. And then we go from there, and we just wait for handsome young Max Clark to get here and save us.
Right. So with that said, like, what is your biggest takeaway from this season? I know we just talked about a lot of different things that happened to you guys. And I agree. Austin Meadows is probably the biggest bummer. I am a big fan of him. I have been since he was minor league Indianapolis Indians.
Oh yeah.
way back in the day. But yeah, so what has been your big takeaway from this season?
My takeaway is, that rebuilding is, which is a term that I just hate in the first place, because until you've started building something, I don't want to hear about how you're rebuilding anything. It's been a long, slow struggle, and I think a lot of fans don't see this yet, and will in the years to come, but the Tigers are just doing a lot more small things right. Like, ever since it's basically AJ Hinch. I think AJ Hinch was a controversial hire for us. I actually was 100% certain we weren't going to get him. He was going to go to the White Sox. You guys were going to dominate the division for a couple years. We'd scream cheater at you guys, but you'd be winning World Series and just laughing at us. So, getting AJ Hinch has continued to be the thing that really transformed the organization. I mean, I'm pretty convinced he basically was the mover in reorganizing our whole player development system, which was god awful. And since that's happened, all of a sudden the Tigers farm system is one of those farm systems that always seems to have someone coming out of it. Like Kerry Carpenter We've got a guy like Justice Bigby who's hitting at Erie this year, who no one had ever heard of. Some of those things are starting to come together. So I think what my biggest takeaway is that organizationally, the Tigers are in a way better place than they've been, probably in my lifetime, since like the early 70s or something, when as far as the farm system and developing talent. So that's where I'm taking some hope. For years we were we were in the mode of like, all right, this guy's a top prospect, but we'll wait to see it. And now everyone's cocky, like anybody who's hitting it all is like, oh, this guy's going to, be the next first baseman after Torkelson moves to DH, or, people are popping up. So there's an optimism about the system itself, which I think is positive. And then the next phase, where we're not so optimistic is Chris Ilitch going to, and the Ilitch family going to, really invest in the team. I expect they will to some degree. It's never going to be like it was under Mike Ilitch. And there's a lot of apologists around Tiger Town, like, oh, he doesn't need to spend that much money. It was crazy that Mike Ilitch spent $200 million and went over the luxury tax. But he did that like 10 years ago, and now the payroll is like at 130 million, and people are still like, oh, this is unsustainable. I'm like, I don't know. They spent 200 million. You guys checked inflation lately? Because they spent 200 million 10 years ago. So yeah, I think, that's the next phase is like, are the Tigers going to be able to find another bat or two? And if they do, we've got Colt Keith coming next year. We've got some prospects who look like they should help, but there's nobody who's like a 5-tool, like, oh, this guy's going to take over, So yeah, we're still kind of creeping our way up there and, not looking like any kind of a juggernaut, but it does keep coming together better than I've seen. I'm not used to being able to be optimistic and have things go the right way. And more they have since AJ Hinch got here. And more I see that with Scott Harris and the way they're mixing and matching and using like role players and stuff like that. More like the Giants or even the Dodgers do when they actually need it, which is, of course, rare. So, yeah, there's a lot of good signs in the organization. I think on the field, people are still just like baffled. But like, what is this team doing? We have a very old school fan base. I know White Sox fans can be the same. Mm-hmm. I went to high school in Orland Park. Yeah. So I've either lived in Michigan or Illinois pretty much my whole life. So I'm familiar with the White Sox fan base very much so. I was rooting for you guys in 2005. I was right there because the Tigers didn't matter. But they're playing a sophisticated, brand of baseball, and a lot of it just sounds like BS to older fans.
Yeah,
we're all finding our way. There's not just going to be a set 9 guys in the lineup every day and 5 starters who go 8 innings. Tiger fans still like are, a little bit, at least the older half of the fan base are still pretty oriented toward like 80s and 90s baseball, I would say. So we're learning, we're trying to get everybody on board.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned you thought AJ Hinch would be going to the White Sox. Did you ever see after Tony La Russa was hired, a graphic came out and was very quickly deleted because it had AJ Hinch's signature on it?
Oh, I have heard of this, but I never saw a tweet or anything with the document. That is fascinating.
A lot of people grabbed it. I'm sure it's probably saved on my phone somewhere, but yeah, there was this whole, it just became a joke. Being a White Sox fan is kind of a joke anyway, but it just kind of became this funny joke all over Twitter because, again, they put out this tweet, it says AJ Hinch with a picture of Tony La Russa after he, gets back, he comes back, is hired back on. And so for a split second, we're like, well, did they maybe interview him? That would have been cool because we don't think anyone was actually interviewed for Tony's job, just as no one was interviewed for Rick Hahn's job just recently. So
yeah, what is bless you, Jerry Reinsdorf. I appreciate this on behalf of all Tigers fans and Detroit fans in general. But especially after you tormented us all through the 90s.
Yeah.
And which I'm old enough to remember the Bulls, of course, very well.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's what it is. It just seems to come back to management with you guys. Our staff and a lot of people I talked to like 3 or 4 years ago were absolutely terrified of the White Sox and just convinced, you guys are just going to just destroy the division. And if you looked at the talent level, I was like, yep, it does kind of look like that. But there just aren't many teams where the talent acquisition and the talent development and whatever strange, unholy, bad mojo exists in that clubhouse. I still blame probably Chris Sale with the scissors and the jerseys. But I was just like, I don't know what it is, but, for some reason, the White Sox has always underperformed. They just never can quite put the whole thing together. And I've seen you guys have, Don Cooper was a pretty good pitching coach. It seems like you guys find relievers. You do all those little things. And then, yeah, you guys are pulling international talent, at 16, 17 years old, which we never do. And, you got Robert, you got all these people. And, yeah, I was just like, I don't know, until I see it happen. There's something wrong there. There's something deeply, deeply wrong there. And I don't, I don't quite know what it is. There's so much that's right, as far as like what's on the field and the acquisition of talent. But I don't know. The vibes are just terrible over there sometimes. I don't know.
It's bad. The Chris Sale thing definitely didn't help. The whole Drake LaRoche,
Oh, God.
Adam Eaton, like
Adam LaRoche, yeah.
that whole timeline where I just had to laugh. I sat there and because I wasn't as invested in the White Sox that year, and I just had to laugh at my husband because he was very invested at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is just a joke. You have a 12-year-old running a clubhouse. Like,
Yep.
you have all this like inner fighting. You're losing good players because the bad players are being just complete shit shows. Like, what is happening right now? It's like embarrassing. And then now I'm humiliated and he's not invested. So
yeah,
I mean, my karma, I guess.
If okay, if I'm gonna ask this question. If you could pick like one person's character on the White Sox that like everyone would just follow and they would just go along and let that guy lead the way. I mean, is Tim Anderson that guy still? Or is there someone who's that guy?
I've talked about Tim recently and how I think a lot of people have just fallen off with him because he has underperformed so much this season.
It's been rough, yeah.
And last season, a lot of things came out about his personal life. And people are just, like, oh, well, he's terrible. He doesn't want to be here anymore. Like, get this bum off my team. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that was our franchise player.
Yeah. I loved him as a player. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then like I thought Lucas Giolito was kind of a great leader, and now he's gone, and now I'm just like, well, who is there? So I guess even though Liam isn't playing, I would love it if everyone would just embody what Liam Hendriks brings to baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love Liam Hendriks. Yeah.
He's just a doll. And I mean, everybody loves him. I don't know a lot of people that follow baseball that can say something bad about Liam. So
yeah, definitely one of the most popular players in the game for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look over there and I see like Eloy and I see Moncada and I see Tim Anderson and I see like, the pitching that you guys have had. You had Lance Lynn and the go fuck yourselves on the mound, which I love. Love me some Lance Lynn getting feisty. But yeah, I always thought, Grandal would have been the guy who was when he was with the Dodgers. I just wanted so bad. I coveted that man and figured he'd, lead you guys forever. And it turns out he's kind of, not that guy at all. So yeah, I don't know what to think. I have questions and concerns.
I want to believe that rumor is just not true about the whole slapping Tim Anderson in the cold tub.
Yeah.
Because I love Yasmani. I was through the moon when I got that news. I think it was like around Thanksgiving that news broke that he was coming to the White Sox, and I like stopped what I was doing and I'm like, oh my God, we have Yasmani. And my husband was like, no, we don't. And I'm like, yes, I just got the notification. Go look at your phone. Look at we have Yasmani. And we were both like, just through the moon. And then now I'm just like, what are you doing here, bud?
Yeah, I mean,
he's not even starting anymore. We have Corey Lee starting in tonight's game.
It's so odd. I mean, when you land the left-handed power hitting catcher of your dreams that he's good behind the plate, I mean, it's just so hard to find. I mean, I would love to have a guy like that to pair with Jake Rogers. And yeah, I mean, I really kind of thought it would work out for you guys there. I don't know what to think about Yasmani these days either. Although, like, the Tigers are a team that always has some kind of weird underlying rumors as well. And, I mean, so many of these things never turn out to be anything. We've all seen this over the years. There's still people who talk about Prince Fielder and Avisail Garcia, supposedly, some affair with the other's wife and a fight and all that kind of stuff. But there's never really been anything serious to ever confirm that. But once it's out there, that's just the way it goes. You can't really put it back in the bottle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this team, I mean, the White Sox have been frustrating. This season especially has just been excruciating to the point where if like more news breaks, I think I might have like a breakdown.
Yeah. I know it's bad because I'm upset about it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, Lucas Giolito's gone, and what happened to Kopech? You know, like what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah, and then like I mean, again, we got really excited because we're like, oh, Rick is gone, Kenny is gone. Like, thank goodness Jerry's doing something smart, and we had that like moment of joy, and then we were like, oh no, it's going to be Chris Getz, who's terrible.
And Chris Getz is like your player development guy, right?
For the minors, and
Yeah.
we have a terrible minor system right now. Like our farm teams are just completely underdeveloped. The only good that we have are the players that come in, like that we acquire from trades and whatnot. So, I mean, for the last 7 years, he's been really bad at his job.
Right. The guy who's getting the players was good at his job. The guy who was like supposed to polish him up was not the guy. Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got that. We got so excited because, you know, our redacted pitcher went on waivers and we're like, yes, he's gone. Like someone take him. And then,
right.
you know,
I blocked him out. Yeah.
And he's still here. So it's just every day.
I know. I forgot all about the pitcher who will not be named. Yeah. That's a problem too.
We don't love him at all.
Which is, anyway. And the messed up thing is I loved so many of your pitchers. I like players. I'm not the type to like, until we get to like October or late September and we're duking it out. I kind of root for players. I want to see my team do well. I want to see your team play good baseball at least and lose. But there were so many players that
I think you muted yourself, Brandon. There. Oh, I still can't hear you though. Oh, there you are.
Okay, better now. I didn't touch anything. What's going on?
It was just very strange. You suddenly just were talking, but I couldn't hear you.
Just gesturing. Yeah, what's going on over there? So yeah, it's been kind of frustrating for me to watch you guys as well, because I'm a big pitching dork, and you guys had so many interesting guys, and Ronaldo Lopez is a guy who I just coveted forever, kind of like Nick Pivetta or something. This guy who has amazing stuff and never quite puts it together. Somebody's gonna get that guy and fix him, and I hate when it's Cleveland. So
that was one of the most disappointing things for me is when they both. We lose them to the Angels, then they go to Cleveland. I'm like, they should have stayed on the Angels because then I wouldn't have been so upset. Yeah. But I'm with you. Like, I'm a big pitcher person. I love Raylo. Like, he's always been one of my favorites. And I loved Lucas, even though he's not been great. So yeah, I was so bummed. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I root for players, especially pitchers, but yeah.
And and that also came with with Ohtani, which is like we're all in mourning about Ohtani to begin with, and then you make these trades and then they just get shuffled off after a month. This whole thing has been so weird. I mean, I guess you can feel a little better because Artie Moreno, apart from the fact that he has money, is just an absolute madman over there. I don't know what the hell's going on. There has to be some kind of standard developed, Crystal, where we can fire owners at all levels of society.
I wish, man. I know Jerry doesn't want to keep it in the family because everyone was like, well, when he goes, it's going to be Michael. But I guess he doesn't want his kids taking over. So who knows?
Good. I don't want your kids taking over either, Jerry.
No. Artie. No. I've seen what they've done to the Bulls. I don't want them.
Yeah.
I don't want them on my other team.
Yeah. It's rough. So, all right. So who do you like on the Tigers? Like if there's a pitcher you root for on the Tigers when you're not facing him, who is it?
Oh, man. I don't know. Like, with the Tigers, it's always been Miggy for me. Like, he's always just been a favorite player of mine. I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite pitcher, but I mean, there are a lot of just likable Tigers players. Like I said earlier, I love Austin, and I've always loved Miggy. I like to be there. Like, I just bought his jersey, I think last year when I was there at the shop because I try to buy a shirt at every ballpark too.
Oh yeah.
But he's just always been like my favorite Tiger.
Yeah.
which almost feels like cheating because everyone knows Miggy, everyone loves him, but I don't know. He's
Yeah,
just
but it's like Shohei. We all,
yeah.
it's okay. You can all, like Shohei.
It's
Yeah,
that
Miggy.
guy who's consistent, and I've grown up. Well, not necessarily grown up, but I've watched for such a long time, and he's always just been so much fun to me. So
Yeah, I mean, you were a young teenager when he started, probably. So yeah,
yeah,
I was older than that, but but I do love him for sure.
he's just a little
That's
older than
another weird thing about the season that is inconsequential entirely, but really, really, I think has kind of saved us is just the fact that Miggy has actually hit pretty well, because it was looking pretty bleak the second half last year. We know he's not going to hit for power anymore, but you still had like, just like amazing hands. Just to this day at age 40, still will just barrel anything you throw in there up on a line. And I don't know. It looked so bad in April, and we were just like, "What are they going to do?" This dude's going to be getting, collecting presents and donations and being celebrated at each ballpark. What if he's just god awful all year and they can't even play him? And that worked out. Like he kind of caught fire, and he was hitting almost 300 for like 2 or 3 months there. So there's, it's really kind of turned into a celebration of him, which I think the younger players on the Tigers have appreciated being a part of. And Miggy's a little bit more chatty with those guys these days. He's kind of in player manager mode. And yeah, I mean, Miguel's obviously had his personal issues over the years too, but they're so far in the past. Like, I'm just thankful, like whatever he did to like not involve the police ever again, or,
yeah.
like, okay, that's all I need. I have low standards in sports. There's only, just, attack no women and don't end up in jail. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. But yeah, there's Miggy. Obviously, I've missed Casey. That is one pitcher that I do enjoy watching. Yeah.
He's looking all burly. He's added like 25, 30 pounds of muscle in his Tommy John rehab. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see what he looks like next year. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's one I have been missing now that I like really think about it. But yeah. Speaking of these Tigers, if you had to declare an MVP candidate for this year on the Tigers, who would it be?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. I'm probably going to go Kerry Carpenter, just because he was the one that no one expected, and he's probably the best now. He is a very, very dangerous hitter, and coming through the minor leagues, he's a 19th round pick. Like, no one even paid any attention to him until 2022. And he was still, like at high A ball to start the season, and just, hit like 30 home runs in 3 or 4 months, comes out of nowhere. And everyone's like, oh, well, his defense is terrible. And I'd kind of seen, he's not a very good route runner, but the kid is fast and he can throw. He has like, the physical ability to be a pretty good outfielder. And then, yeah, he's kind of led the way with the bat. Torkelson's, gotten it going and has been well above average, at least the past couple months. But, he's a first baseman. If he doesn't hit, we're screwed. And Riley Green just keeps getting hurt. As much as I love him, we're starting to get a little bit concerned, I guess, about that. So, yeah, I'm going to give it to Kerry. You could go Tarek Skubal too, but he's only got back at like beginning of June. So I'll go with Kerry Carpenter for me.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Skubal does for the rest, because I know he's going to be in this series, but we'll get to that series shortly.
Yeah.
But for you, we've talked about kind of ownership and if you have high hopes, but what are the things that the Tigers really need to target in this offseason for you guys to have a better 2024?
Yeah, I mean, they do need to rebuild the pitching staff a little bit. We're kind of down to like Skubal, Manning, and we don't know what's going to happen with Eduardo Rodriguez. And that's if there's been like one weird like underlying thing that's happened this year, it's just, there's just a strange relationship with Eduardo Rodriguez right now. I don't really know what happened at the trade deadline, but the Tigers thought they had his approval to go ahead with the deal, and the Dodgers seemed to think that they had his approval to go ahead with the deal. But Eduardo didn't approve the deal, and they kind of waited till the last minute. The whole thing falls through. We're frustrated because he's probably just going to take his option and bounce. And I don't know if the Tigers really want to pay him a whole lot more than they are. That was easily Alavila's best free agent signing of his entire time running the Tigers, which was it was almost a miracle to see it. And on the other side we've got Javi, unfortunately. So yeah, they've got to get at least one starting pitcher, probably two, We do have more coming through the farm system, and that'll help. But it's pretty simple. They need to get one more bat that they can put in the lineup every day, preferably a right-hander who hits lefties. Because for the first time in my lifetime, the Tigers have all these good left-handed bats. They have Carpenter, they've got Green, Parker Meadows has been like usable so far. Colt Keith, who's our top hitting prospect, who'll be up next year, is left-handed. And we have that short porch and right. And the entire time Dave Dabrowski ran the team, I think Prince Fielder and to a degree Victor Martinez are the only left-handed bats in the lineup, and it never made any sense to me. So yeah, they've got to find someone who can kind of balance that out. I've kind of, we've kind of kicked around like, can we trade for Gleyber Torres, someone like that? We need someone in the infield. We could really use an infielder. I feel like the outfield is not too bad. Akil Badu's been better as long as he's not, facing too many lefties. He's pretty effective and fun to watch, really fast. So yeah, probably those two things. If they can get that bat, I'm not real worried about the pitching staff. They found Michael Lorenzen last offseason. They found Tyler Holton in relief. Ever since Chris Fetter became the pitching coach, they seem to find a guy or two every year and make it happen. And he's also really good at getting like decent starts, like decent short starts out of, like kind of 6 starter type guys. Willie Peralta and Drew Hutchison the past 2 years, like both put up like 3.5 ERAs with us, which is, freakish for their careers. So I don't worry too much about that. We could really use someone to turn into an ace. I would have loved to have just traded for Justin Verlander because I'm a Justin Verlander honk still, and would love to have him finish his career here. But it seems like that ship has sailed. Yeah. But yeah, they've got to find a pitcher. But more than anything, yeah, you just got to add one more bat in there that you can play every day, because all this pinch hitting and substitutions is driving our fan base insane. Like they're convinced AJ Hinch is just this maniac doing whatever, with no data behind it, which I can assure them is not true. But yeah, I think the Tigers have pinch hit almost the most in the league this year, which they've never been anywhere close to. And Scott Harris's Giants clubs were the same way. So that's going to be a part of the game, but they need a little bit more kind of solidification of the middle of the order, especially with Miggy leaving. He's been an RBI machine lately. If you need a solid line drive single to right with a runner on second or third, that's still your guy, really. So yeah, we need a little help there.
Yeah, so we've talked about Miggy a bunch. What does next season look like with it being post Miggy? Finally, like I feel like he's been around forever.
Yeah, it sort of didn't bother me until fairly recently, but yeah, it's going to be weird. It is going to be strange. There's people still scheming to can we make Miguel a coach or something? But yeah. Miguel's the type of hitter who isn't cut out to be a particularly good coach, because he one thing about him is that he never seems to tell anyone anything. He'll just kind of make a point to them that eventually he's really good at this. Apparently, it's just like telling you to look for something, and then you see it, and then in his swing, and you realize that you're not doing it. James McCann, Nick Castellanos, all these guys have all these stories about him kind of teaching by showing rather than just sitting you down and trying to explain something. So there's a lot of amiss about him. Obviously, his personality most of all. And then, yeah, it's like, who seizes the reins and becomes, sort of the leaders. Like, the Torkelson, Green, Carpenter group kind of looks like they've got some of that. They're a pretty energetic bunch. We've got a bunch of good-looking young fellas there who are, finding their way and starting to do good in the game. Fans are excited about that. And then on the pitching side, Casey Mize has kind of that leadership ability already, and so does Skubal. So from the pitching side, I don't have that many concerns, but it's going to feel strange. It just is. It's going to be a real weird spring to not have Miggy there, lightening the mood. And I do kind of wonder if next year's team will just be tenser or more tight overall, because there'll be a little bit more expectations, and they don't have him there to sort of just ride and have this giant personality that sort of represents the whole team. So we'll see. It's I'm thinking about it now, and it's gonna feel odd, really odd.
Yeah, I try to make a trip or two every season up to Detroit anyway to see them, because they're close, and I grew up doing that. I grew up kind of baseball hopping the Midwest. So I love going there. My children, that's one of their favorite ballparks, which kind of blows me away. It's just funny.
It's the Tiger sculptures, I think, because I swear to God, they based it exactly on Guaranteed Rate Field. It's almost like that same era of park. And I've been there plenty of times. I've been to the old Comiskey. I've only been to Wrigley Field 3 or 4 times, oddly. It is. Once you get the vibe, it's not that great, but but it is still kind of a fun like area to be in and see a game. It feels like you're in a minor league park though at this point. That's what a lot of minor league parks in old cities where they've created like a whole district downtown around them feels like. So yeah, but whatever. The Cubs won the World Series. We don't have to care about them anymore.
No, we don't. Once you've been there once, that's usually enough. Don't even stay for the vibes. Like, let it stay magical for that one time you go, and then like don't use the restroom while you're there though, because that ruins it completely. But yeah, just go once. Like, that's all I suggest to people.
Yeah. Go until you've had a really nice experience and really gotten that warm Wrigley feeling, and then don't go back because something will spoil it probably the next time.
Don't go back. You don't need to go back.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a million clubs around that area, and I lived in Kalamazoo for a really long time. Went to college at Western Michigan, and we just bombed back and forth to Chicago all the time. Stayed there for some summers, so like that area is a lot of fun, but. Weird shit always happens up there. I don't know how to explain it, but I've just had so many strange experiences with people up there and seen some very bad things. So I mean, everyone talks about the South Side, but I'm always like, no. I don't know. Every really weird thing I've ever seen is up there.
Yeah, Wrigleyville is way scarier in my opinion. They've built it up, but like it looks really nice. They added like this Gallagher Way. They host wonderful Chris Kindle markets if you ever in the mood to go to that. And they have like a bunch of they have a paid portion on the field that you can go, and they're like rides and like all kinds of cool things inside. And then the metro's down the street, so like go there for a show instead if you're going to be in Wrigleyville.
Yep, just take it. Go ahead to the Riviera or wherever you're going.
Just go watch a show instead of like, it's really not worth it. All right, we're going to take a very, very quick break.
All right.
And get back to break down the series.
What's the dog's name? Millie?
Willow.
Okay. She was pretty good. And then she knew when it was break time.
I know. I was about to say she started back up. All right. Welcome back. So the White Sox and Tigers, they play all the time. Dylan Cease used to be the Tiger tamer. He's had no control this season since, but the Tigers aren't even going to face him in this series anyway. So we'll get into these pitching matchups. We have Redacted starting the first day. We have Unknown starting Sunday. They asked Pedro Grifol, and he said he's not sure. Normally that would be a Michael Kopech day. No clue. No idea. And then we have Jesse Schultens, who is a person that pitches.
He has an arm that throws balls, I've been told.
Yeah. You guys have a little bit better. I mean, you've got Olsen and Skubal right now that are listed. I looked, the other one is not listed just yet, but are you confident with at least those two going in to start?
Yeah, for sure. I'm confident with those two. I'm not very confident playing in Comerica Park, though, because the Tigers have been just really bad offensively at home. So I wouldn't be surprised if you came in and took it to us the same way we kind of tend to do when we go there recently. Yeah. Reese Olson's been interesting. Like, always had like a great slider and changeup combination in the minors, but was just really wild with his fastball. Like, had better control of the off-speed stuff. And they've kind of got him throwing a sinker now, and that's keeping the ball in the park. And he always had home run trouble, and now that he's having less home run troubles, the strikeouts are piling up. He's kind of finding his way. He's got a little baby face. He's cute.
He's very cute.
Yeah. He looks like he's about 17 or 16 out there. It looks like a back to school picture. But that's just me getting old, is what it is. And then Skubal's been pitching really well. Like he has a weird tendency to like come out like a lot of starters, like and be a little wild and maybe take a little damage early. But if you don't get him in the first inning or two, he'll usually go 6 or 7 and cruise. I think it was supposed to be Manning on Sunday, but once again, Matt Manning has taken a comebacker off the foot and was removed from tonight's game after an inning. So we'll see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a bullpen day again, just the way our luck goes with that kind of freak injury. So yeah, and then we get Redacted twitchy power funk boy on Friday who we've hit lately. So hopefully we'll take it to him and
Yeah,
end his little career and
I'm okay
move
with
him along. I know you will be.
I have I will not repeat things that I have said about him on this podcast in fear of the FBI watching,
Mhm.
since they watch everything on my computer anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Somewhere Donald Rumsfeld is still working on our computer somewhere, I think.
yeah, I'm not a fan, but hey, domestic violence organization will get $25 from me
Yeah.
Friday. They're already getting a ton. They've received a ton of money from me this season,
That is awesome.
and they're getting more as I just on the last visiting dugout. I actually had the Amazing Avenue ladies on from the Mets who do dollars for dingers.
Oh yeah.
And that's, you make a pledge for every home run hit by the Mets. And then you can add like really fun little challenges in it. So like right now, I put $2 for every home run and then an additional $2 for every Pete Alonso home run.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I'm up to like, I don't know, I think it was like $30 so far. And I just signed up yesterday. But yeah, so I mean, these organizations, they receive a lot of money because they also donate to the domestic violence hotline. So
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's good. All you can do is try to. He's not going to turn anything good out of it. So yeah, other people have to. I don't know. I don't know what to do with these situations anymore. Like these guys are entertainers, and if this was Hollywood, you wouldn't be making movies, kid. But it's treated like some kind of blue collar job. Well, the union rule. I don't know. I don't really know what to do about this, but there needs to be some like hellaciously strict code of conduct put into place where it just doesn't happen. I mean, I don't want to just like push it away like, oh, well, go work over here and do whatever you're going to do. I mean, it's a problem that society needs to be way more serious about. But I don't know. It's good that you're at least trying to turn it into something positive because I don't know. We've been kind of fortunate on that score. There was a little bit of concern about Miggy with his first incident, but everything I've heard since was mostly that he was just trash and his wife was just trying to get the keys away from him and scratch the shit out of him. So I like to believe that was the case.
Yeah.
Shout out to her for trying to do that. So.
Yeah. That's all you can do. I know there are so many mental gymnastics. I talk about mental gymnastics all the time as like a woman in sports media at all.
Yeah.
So that's like the only way I can usually get through watching these players. Like I did that in 2016 with Chapman on the mound for the Cubs during the World Series. Like I was donating then. Yeah. If I'm watching a game and an abuser is playing, I will donate money because I can't in good faith like watch this happen. So I do it all season with him.
Yeah. Just trying to turn some kind of positive out of it. That's actually, I should be better about this at my age, but that's pretty much the only charity I donate for. But yeah, we had a lot of just a lot of family members who went through some shit back in the day. So that one's been on my mind since I was pretty young too. And yeah, I just the MLB's entire like just the idea that MLB, like the idea that they have their own cops and they're allowed to investigate themselves. I mean, this kind of goes to AJ Hinch and the Astros. Lots of other subjects where it's just like you're just expected to just kind of trust that. Oh yeah, we did a thorough investigation, and no one believes this. It's impossible to believe the company who has all the benefit to exonerating the player. The whole thing is just kind of insane. I don't know. I read a really great book not too long ago. Well, it wasn't even that great. It was called Baseball Cop, and it was just all about like the way the league uses their sort of pseudo police forces, both in Latin America and in America, to just get the results that they want, and get the players that they want and get people out of trouble. And I don't know, it's gross. So much of business is gross, but in particular, when you're asked to cheer for these people and root for them, it's pretty grim.
Yeah, especially when they're like amazing players.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
They're like injured. Like McCutcheon, I may or may not have cried earlier today hearing that news of him being out for the rest of the season. I'm like, you have amazing players like him that have the worst luck because he is at 299 home runs.
Yeah, I know. He just needed to have that, that last couple of weeks of great moments, and he could have ridden off into the sunset and bam. And then, I mean, the Ohtani one has been
Yeah.
brutal. I hate seeing Trout hurt all the time.
Yeah.
And then Clayton Kershaw, apparently his back is shot or his shoulder. And it's just like, well, there's nothing they can do about it anyway. So he's just going to try to pitch through it. Like,
Yeah. Well, one of my favorites has always been
Not
Jacob
happy.
deGrom, and he's
oh, yeah.
constantly injured.
Yep.
I can't stand it.
Yep. There's kind of a changing of the guard going on. It feels like maybe Verlander's got like another year or two of that older group, but Max isn't looking so good. It'll be interesting to see how that matchup between the two of them turns out tonight. I haven't paid attention, but yeah, it feels like all those players who were really good in the late aughts and early tens are finally all heading off into the sunset. So
yeah,
it's gonna be a bit of a turnover. I just hope we're not reaching the point where it's just like, just a constant cycle of like nobody's out of the minor leagues and they pitch okay and then we send them back. Too much of that. Not enough star power is bad for the game. And then you see like Ellie De La Cruz comes up and you're like, holy shit, again. So there's always fresh renewal, I guess, going on at least too.
He's been so fun. Yeah. I actually when Buster Posey announced his retirement, I, for Southside Sox, wrote like a millennial's guide to when your favorite players retire, like the players that you grew up with. Because again, Buster Posey was one of those that I've watched forever.
Yeah.
And I was like having this like life crisis happening. And I was like, well, that means I am old. Like I'm only 20, not late 30s anymore.
Yeah, but we measure our lives by baseball players, to a degree.
Yeah, I've been so guilty of doing that. So he announced his retirement and I was like, oh my gosh, what does that mean for me?
What does it say about my life choices and where I'm at?
I am a geriatric baseball player. And like Lance Lynn, he's my age. I've watched him since high school because he grew up not far from where I lived, and we played his school. Our high school played his high school team.
Really?
So,
yeah, that's cool.
So I've had like these weird connections, and like Lance is doing bad. He probably doesn't have too much left in him, and I'm just like, what does this mean for me?
I know it is. It's just a weird thing, and that's, I'm sure I'll be going through some kind of midlife crisis next year without Miggy around, because he's always been there pretty much. Like I gave up on baseball and organized sports in my super like radical 20s and in the 90s, and was all like, fuck sports, this is just bad business. And so I came back in like 2005 2006 with those teams. So yeah, Miggy is pretty much like the starting point for my whole adult baseball fandom. So yeah, it's gonna be weird. And he's still way younger than me, and that kind of bothers me. He's like 8 years younger than me almost. So yeah, that sucks. I don't like that. I don't like that feeling a bit. And then like Reese Olson comes up to pitch, and you're like, this kid looks like he's 16.
I know. I feel that way with a lot of players. Like Gavin Sheets looks like a baby as well. And as a woman that also has to watch these players, you form an attraction to them at times.
Sure.
But they're like Adley Rutschman. I'm like, he is so cute, but I feel dirty saying that because he's like and he's like 25, but that's a baby to me.
Right. You can have that though, but yeah.
But I'm just like,
they are so young. I know.
Feels slimy because these guys are so much younger than I
am. Yeah. That's just another one of those little awkward things about growing up. I mean, it's brutal. No one cares about single 40-year-old dudes, but it's just awful, like how many times a day where I'm just like, Jesus Christ, stop looking at her. What are you doing? Like not just casual, genuinely like, oh wow, she's hot. And then it's just like, you sick bastard. She's like, 25 years younger than you are. Like, you're old. Like, oh, right. Okay, yeah, I'm old. Yeah, I gotta remember that. I know for trouble.
I'm feeling that with some of these players that have recently been coming up. It's gross.
Yeah.
Anyway, this series. What are your keys for the Tigers to take this series? Because it's probably pretty easy at this point for you guys to win it.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I hope they get to Clevenger, obviously. And what it is, though, that if the Tigers don't score in like the first inning or two, they just seem to go cold until the bullpen. So the offense needs to get out to a good start. It doesn't look like we're going to have Riley Green because he flew through the air with the greatest of ease again the other day and banged up his elbow. So you guys are going to have an easier time with this lineup probably than otherwise. So I'm going to say that the keys for us winning this series are people other than Torkelson and Carpenter doing damage. And that usually means like Jake Rogers, maybe Parker Meadows, maybe Zach McKinstry and Akil Baddoo. If Akil Baddoo is getting on base against you, it's going to be a huge problem. He's just going to run wild all over the place with his hair on fire, and that'll be fun for us.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel like we're going to pitch. The two teams know each other so well; they know how to pitch each other. It's just who's going to execute best. And I feel like right now with Olson and Skubal's, I don't even know, but probably like 60 innings into his season, maybe a little more. Olson's pitched more than that, but they're both looking really fresh. So if I'm going to pick who's going to execute their game plan, I'll probably say us in that regard.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we don't hit at home, so I don't know. They've been brutal. They just cannot hit in Comerica Park. The pitching has been good, but I don't know. There's just something about the deep center field that just seems to intimidate guys like Torkelson and Green. They just have not pulled the trigger there very well. So hopefully they'll swing the bats a little bit better.
Well, the White Sox don't have any big hitters anymore. Jake Berger's gone.
What happened to Andrew Vaughn? What is going on there?
He did.
I thought Andrew Vaughn was going to be a lot better than Spencer Torkelson coming out of the draft, to be honest.
I thought he was like the second coming, and he has been so bad this season. I don't know if it's just kind of like a sophomore slump, if he's just regressing a little too much,
or if it's just the malaise that is surrounding this entire team right
now. But obviously filling the shoes of Jose Abreu is impossible.
Yeah.
As he hit a grand slam tonight. That's okay.
How was that? Was that one hard for you guys?
Oh, that one crushed me.
Yeah, see, even I loved Jose Abreu. I was like, well, at least he gets to go to a good team and like try to win, but it doesn't look right when I see him in an Astros uniform for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I felt like if he went to another team, there may be like 3 teams that I would say absolutely not.
Yeah.
Astros were one of them.
Yeah.
So that
Yankees,
one, Astros, Yankees, and probably like the Braves. Those are my teams. Yeah. So I'm just like, I can't.
No more of this.
3, do not go there. So that one hurt. And again, he had big shoes to fill. And Andrew Vaughn has just not performed the way I think anyone thought he was, because he came in last year just on fire. And I was like, oh, this kid's got potential. He's going to be great. He's going to be a great backup for Abreu one day. And then boom, Abreu's gone. Like, just pull that rug right out from under us.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, well, he's now our everyday starting first baseman, but he's not hitting the ball. So that's cool.
Yeah, which is just odd. I mean, he's so talented. I have to think it'll probably come around a little bit, but I don't know. I really thought that guy was going to be good. Yeah, I was watching the White Sox the other day, and Pedro Grifol was making a pitching change. I can't even remember the situation, but I've never seen a manager who looked more like far away, just like lost, in his thoughts than he was at that moment. Just like, what in the hell is going on here? I don't know what to do about this. I don't know. I was reading too much into it, knowing the situation, but he was just staring off into the distance, waiting for the next reliever to come in. And I just thought, this is manager hell right here. When you're on the dugout, you're on the mound constantly, rubbing up a new ball, like waiting for the dude to come in and just thinking like, could I have sold insurance? Like, could I have, I don't know. Maybe I should have got into marketing.
I wish he had.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be better than Tony though, right? I mean, that whole thing was just the most mind fucking thing ever. I just could not believe that they had hired Tony La Russa.
Look, when you pick up garbage from the Kansas City Royals, what does that say about your organization?
It's not a good sign.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. No. You know who you guys should have got? Don Kelly. Former Tiger, Don Kelly.
Yeah.
Pirates bench coach. I want that guy to get a job. I would hate to see him in a Sox uniform. Don Kelly is our spirit animal over here, really. But yeah. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to work with what's going on.
When you pick up a bench coach that was fired from the Royals, you're not a serious team.
No, I'm afraid not. Our bench coach, George Lombard, keeps getting interviewed everywhere, and I'm expecting him to leave. But AJ Hinch runs such a one thing that's been weird about the Tigers is that AJ Hinch is here, and he wants no more of like the Astros shenanigans, and so he's the only one who talks. Even when Al Avila got fired, AJ Hinch did the talking. Mm-hmm. AJ Hinch runs the Tigers. Maybe now Scott Harris runs the Tigers, but the last couple of years, AJ Hinch ran the Tigers and was just like, fuck this. This your process in the minor league sucks. We're changing that. You're fired. Just cleaning house, and that's another thing. I think fans don't really realize the influence he's had there, but. But yeah, but as a result, we don't get to even know our coaches other than Chris Fetter, who I kind of have a relationship with on the side and like chat with. So yeah, we're gonna lose George Lombard, and we're all gonna be like, oh, I never heard from him anyway. And then he's gonna go on to be a great manager somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you guys hear that the White Sox hired him, you'll be in good shape, I think.
Oh, goodness.
Here we are with two good managers now. Yeah, we got that on you too.
Man, that's getting rough. And AJ Hinch is the only one who I feel like has absolved himself of all sin. Like he's the only one that like owns up to it, and yeah, he's
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be there, but he at least did apologize and give a long interview. I'll give him that. And I don't know, a lot of Tiger fans are still worried about him like that. I think AJ Hinch is maniacally focused on winning a World Series without any scandal, just to prove he can do it. Because I think he feels done wrong by the Astros front office and all that. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. So far, I love the man. He's been good here. So
I would have taken him in a heartbeat.
Keep it clean, AJ.
Man. So what might be the biggest threat, whether it's distrust on your own team or something White Sox related when you go into this series?
I don't know, because I always think like, okay, if Tim Anderson gets hot and is on base a bunch, we're fucked. That's how I've looked at the White Sox the past couple of years, and you guys don't really have that. So I don't know. It feels like two teams that aren't really going to be the same team next year when they meeting right now. And so yeah, I don't really know like who to fear on your side, other than if Robert's hot, I know we're gonna have problems, but he looks somewhat disinterested to me too, to be honest. If I'm 100% honest about what I've seen from him, and I don't know how healthy he is either. So
yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he's injured. There's been a lot of times this season where he is just hitting the bat with one arm.
Yeah, I've seen that, and kind of dogging it a little bit on a few balls, which I'd never seen from him before. So
yeah, I think after the All-Star game, that injury has just kind of been nagging at him, and he's still been fine, but he's not been the same. And I'm just waiting for like an injured list update for him.
Yeah, I guess if I'm going to pick a key, it's just hitting your starting pitchers. I don't like the Tigers trying to come back in games at home. They just don't seem to do it. So it's kind of a momentum team right now. If they're swinging the bats, they feel good, and all of a sudden they look like, oh, this could be a young contending team in 2 years. And if they come out and they struggle the first couple innings, strand a runner or two, they seem to go into a pretty good funk in the middle innings, which is kind of how baseball works. Once the starter settles in, it's harder to get to them. But yeah, it's been pretty accentuated. So if we don't get to you guys early, I'd say you've got a pretty good shot.
Maybe.
But none of it matters anyway, right? So whatever.
So which Tiger player do you think might have the biggest impact this series?
I'm going to say Torkelson, because he has been swinging it well, and I think the offense is starting to kind of run around him, especially with Riley Green out. It's Carpenter and Torkelson, and whether or not the two of them are doing some damage. Because if they do, then the scrappy little role players seem to perk up and play their role, get on base a little bit better, and feel like they're going to get something going. But if Torkelson and Carpenter are quiet, we just don't have enough weapons to really hit too much major league pitching for more than a couple runs in a game. Every once in a while, something freakish will happen, like Andy Ibanez hitting 2 home runs in a game. But it's a pretty thin lineup, and some of it will come down to matchups that I can't predict, because if the Tigers have the right guy pinch hitting and against the right pitcher, AJ Hinch has been pretty good at that this year, even though we've pinch hit so much that our overall pinch hitting numbers are not particularly good. So yeah, like the matchups in the late innings will probably come down to a lot of it, but the Tigers need to get out to a good start and feel good about themselves swinging the bat, because they're pretty Jekyll and Hyde still right now, and need a couple more bats in there beyond just Riley Green coming back.
Yeah. That kind of wraps up the series. So before we end this, I like to just ask about MLB overall this season, like if you've had any good or bad surprises, or just, I mean, anything, just kind of how this season has went down with you outside of the Tigers.
Yeah, it's weird because so many things changed the past 2 years. I mean, from the CBA to the size of the bases, the pitch clock, the banning of the shift. There's been so much going on with all that, and it seems like at this point, no one's even talking about it anymore. It seems like it all played out pretty well. I had a couple of experiences going to games live where I didn't really like the pace of the game being this fast. I'm used to like going out to like vibe with people in the bar and then coming back, and then you're like sixth inning, I might go get something to eat and then take a walk around the ballpark. Now it's like you miss an inning and a half, doing that, which is awkward. So it's one of those things. Like at home, I love it, but I hope they don't go any further with that. I love the bigger bases. I kind of love the pitch clock, and I didn't think that I would, because I am still kind of concerned about injury risk for pitchers and not having time to have that refractory phase. I'm going sex ed here in the arm after each pitch. So, I don't know if that has something to do with more injuries. It doesn't seem like it's been that big of a deal, but there are a little bit more injury concerns with that. So I hope they can tweak that a little bit, but I love that I don't like the structure or the idea of like, oh, you can't shift, we're going to make it very strict about where you can put everyone. I always like that openness in the game, but the style of baseball is actually probably a little bit better, to be honest. And so I got over those fears pretty quick, and I'm liking seeing more stolen base attempts. So I feel like the game is at a good place in that regard, and in the fact that the games are a little bit shorter. We're not seeing too many like 3-hour 9-inning marathons anymore, which is I think overall a plus. And I don't know, I think my overriding narrative of the season this year was going to be like the international like breakout, like after Team Japan won in the WBC, that started the whole season, like just the most incredible, like at bat, matchup to finish a game like that ever. And then to see Ohtani not be able to pitch, Trout be hurt all season, has been really, really, I think, sad, because I feel like there's an opportunity here to break baseball out even bigger in an international way. And I've seen the Tigers like going to Australia and getting prospects. There's kind of a movement to get more people playing the game in India. There's kind of all this percolating stuff internationally with baseball, and Shohei Ohtani is the ambassador for all that and the face of all of it. So I'm sad that he's not going to be able to pitch next year. You kind of felt like it was just hard to do this for forever. But I would have loved to have seen like 1 or 2 more years of him just dominating on both sides of the ball, because I just think he would have become kind of a Jordan-esque figure if he isn't already around the world, and really kind of done a lot to reboost baseball. And that, the way it's gone the last couple of weeks has been really kind of sad in that regard. This all could still work out. It just might be a little bit slower, but he was really looking like the flagship to carry the game outside of the US and Latin America, and really blow it up outside of Japan, Korea, Taiwan. So yeah, that's I don't know. I had all kinds of like fancy narratives written like mid-season about like, this is the year baseball goes global, baseball goes international, and it just feels like some of that has like been deflated at least. But we'll see how it goes. Roki Sasaki is going to be over in a couple years, throwing 102 miles an hour, fresh-faced, handsome little Japanese man. There's a whole bunch of good Japanese players and Korean players coming. Some of these other countries are starting to find players. There's a few places in Africa, like Cameroon's got some players that are starting to be produced. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm a big international guy. I studied like world lit, like, yeah. So it does my heart good to like see this game, take over worldwide and become a little bit more like soccer in that regard, and less of sort of a parochial American thing. So yeah, I'm hoping for that going forward, but losing Shohei a little bit has been kind of a kick in the teeth on that front.
Mm-hmm.
And when Shohei got hurt and we were clearly not in the race anymore, I just disassociated. I was like, I'm going to Northern Michigan. I'm going kayaking. I'm just going to run around in the woods and do drugs. I don't care.
I feel that. I was like, well, you know what? That's fine. My season is over. That means I can just tell Brett that I'm, just done for a bit.
Yeah, I'm burned out,
Yeah, he went on vacation and I had to take over with another managing editor. And that's when like the Han news broke and everything. And he came back and I was like, I'm done.
Oh God. Yeah. That's so bad. Yeah. As a manager of a site, like it feels so awful when you're away and huge things happen and you've got, a woefully underpaid staff. We're all woefully underpaid, but scrambling to keep up with it. So good job. Good kudos to you. Brett's lucky to have you.
Yeah, man, he was not even in the country when the Rick Hahn news broke. We weren't even sure if he knew about it because his son had died too. He wasn't like checking Slack. So it's crazy times.
Yeah, he had to get out of here because he was scared Javi Baez was gonna, have a huge season.
Gross.
Just make him very upset all year.
Oh, gross.
My staff got so salty with him when he was kind of giving Javi Baez grief, and I was sort of like, guys, everybody sell down. We can't have this rivalry until one of us is actually really good. So.
Oh, I can't stand Javi, man.
You're not alone. I personally like Javi Baez. I always have. I kind of like a little bit of swag. I know his backstory. Brought his, was the impetus for saving his sister and bringing her over here and all that kind of stuff. Family guy. I get it. Love the defense, but holy God, I have never seen a qualified season as bad at the plate as this. I mean, it's just outrageous. Like it's just, strike one fastball down the middle, takes it, swings it 3 sliders off the plate, gone. Makes a great defensive play. Kind of shows off a little bit. Fans lose their mind. Blue collar Detroit. So yeah.
The whole magician thing. Clearly he's lost his magic.
Yeah. The magic at the plate is completely non-existent, at least. So
yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna do there. If there's a silver lining for all non-Tigers fans, it's that we're stuck with this and we don't know what to do with it. So
that's true. That's true. It's your problem. Your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Please let people know where they can find you. I know we link Bless You Boys quite often when we do play the Tigers.
Yeah, vice versa.
Just in case.
Sure. Yep. I'm the manager of blessyouboys.com. So you can find us over there. I cover our minor league system every day. So you'll find like write-ups on all of our prospects and maybe some of your prospects, depending who you like over there. And then there's an article up about Spencer Torkelson and how he's kind of turned it around this year. So you can check that out. And our commenters, our regulars are like pretty reasonable. So if you ever want to go hang out there, and as long as you're not talking big smack about the Tigers, you'll have a good time. We've got a lot of long-standing members there at this point. We're considered snobs entirely, who ban everyone who comes in, all that kind of thing at this point. But yeah, it's a pretty good group. So we like to keep it that way. And if the group disapproves of an outsider, you might get banned. I'm sorry.
Hey, they happen. We don't ban very often.
Us neither, really.
Yeah.
But it makes a big impression when we do.
Yeah. When we need to, we are not afraid to push that button. But
yep. Damn right. So yeah, come hang out with us over there. If you want to watch 2 bad baseball teams and talk about it, yeah, come by.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Also awesome to talk to you as well. Like we've been friends on Twitter and elsewhere for a long time. So it's nice to actually like see your face and chat with you a bit. So yeah, this has been fun.
Well, when I was originally scheduling
my beer is almost
Dugout, I was like, I have so many Tigers friends at this point. Like I've got Raj and Chris.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I have to like get all of them. So I'm really thankful that like we do play the Tigers so much so that I could fit all of my Tigers friends on here.
Yeah. Have you ever had Ashley on? Yeah, you should probably get Ashley.
I haven't, but I know we play again. So I need to reach out to her because I don't know if I have somebody for that episode yet.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much attention she's paying because she seems to be writing a novel like every other week at this point and is in a frenzy. But yeah, she's awesome to talk to no matter what. So yeah, do that if you get a chance.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck. You probably don't need it. The White Sox are so bad, but best of luck anyway.
Thanks a lot. Best of luck to you guys too. And hopefully they clean it up in the the off season behind the front office. I don't know what's going on with you guys, but good luck.
We shall see. Thank you.
You're welcome. See ya.